You are now listening to Carly's Couch.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy.
Just because you're feeling lonely, it doesn't mean you're different or weird. In fact, it means you have more in common with people around you than you realize. In this episode, we're going to talk about feeling like you're alone and how to deal.
Hello. How y'all doing today?
What's up? Hope you're having a good week. Hope you've been enjoying your September. I can't believe it's September already at all. It's kind of wild. I'm hearing about like homecomings and different things still getting canceled again. So it's like, dang, we got 2 years just flying by.
Dog.
It really makes me kind of think about, making sure we are enjoying our time because it really does feel like it's moving fast.
I feel like August happened in the blink of an eye. Like, I feel like the first part of the year took 20 years, and then the summer and August were gone like that.
But then also, I think it feels like we say that every year. So it just turns out the way. And maybe in general, like the winter time is like a slower time, perhaps. Like people are chilling more at the crib or spending more time for the holidays, etc. And maybe, this is just a busier time. I don't know, but definitely trying to enjoy this thing before 2022, which is about to be
in 2 seconds.
Yeah, literally. But we're glad you're here. Glad you're connected. Today we want to talk about being alone, but not just like, how do you deal with being alone? And in fact, I don't even really super think we're going to talk about like how to deal with being alone as much as just the idea of aloneness or loneliness. And the fact that it's, I guess maybe I shouldn't name this thing, and I guess it's not too late. It's like you're not alone in feeling alone. And that's kind of the thought I was having. Like a lot of people, have lots of times when they feel like they are alone. And so just as kind of a reminder that it's not really like a singled out thing. And kind of just what we can do with that. 1 in 5 people, young people reported feeling alone most of the time or always. That's a lot of people, 1 out of 5. And most of the time and always is a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah. So, I mean, at what times would you say like you feel alone?
I would say I feel alone probably whenever I'm going through something that either I feel like I'm embarrassed to share with somebody, or like it's too much, or I don't know, that maybe they've heard before. And so just like when processing really hard things, or whenever I'm personally going through something that I don't really know who to talk to about it. If there were someone, like in addition to my therapist, shout out to him, to talk to about it, like I would say those are probably the moments. When do you feel alone?
Similarly for like during situations where I may feel some shame, and that could be as minor as like, or no. I would say like more so when I'm in a situation that doesn't feel like a reflection of what I portray, whether it's even to the world or to myself, that's what I am. So maybe you're like having difficulty with something, maybe with work, or maybe with something that's like usually like a go-to thing for you, and it's like, this is supposed to be like who I am, but you're having trouble, so you may feel alone there. Also, I thought about, sometimes like I could be out somewhere, and like if I don't want to be there, I'll feel like alone. Like, man, I don't feel like talking to people. I don't really want to be here, and what that looks like. But the context probably for that is, feeling alone if you are in spaces where you're not maybe honoring like how you actually feel or what you really want to be doing, perhaps. Or it may be because of thoughts of those other types of shames or other types of issues kind of just keep your mind from, keep you isolated even while you're with other people.
And I want to ask early, when thinking about this, is feeling alone and feeling lonely the same thing? And is that interchangeable in what we're talking about today?
Feeling alone and feeling lonely? To me, I would say that feeling alone has a little bit more despair to it than saying you feel lonely. But you can feel like if you're consistently feeling lonely, then you feel alone. But I think for what you're kind of asking, is like, man, I'm feeling kind of lonely today, is maybe different. Like if you really just like, let me call my friend and hang out versus I feel alone. Like nobody can be a part of where I'm at right now. Like I have to do this by myself.
Okay.
So I feel like when we're talking about being alone, it's kind of a little more despair to it. It's kind of like you really, it's like there is nobody else. There's nothing else, no other way that somebody else could be a part of like how you are feeling or where you're at in that moment.
Yeah, and I think that I like the way you differentiated that because that's not what I was thinking. So that's a good like thought about it. But also what we're talking about is like it kind of keeps us from reaching out or connecting to other people. And that nobody can be in that space with you. You know, it's like I am here by myself. Like there's barriers in other people like getting here to be with me or talk about this with me or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And I think that when we're what keeps us from connecting with other people is quite a few things. So we already kind of mentioned shame a little bit. So I think like guilt and shame and other feelings that keep you from you don't want to express to other people because it kind of uncovers your vulnerability or how you feel maybe about yourself or what you're dealing with. So that's one habit that can lead to you feeling very alone. What are some other ones?
Man, I would say negative self-talk. You mentioned it earlier. It's like, not even being what you portray or feeling like you're being what you portray. So that might isolate you from reaching out to other people because then you're kind of being your own worst critic. Well, how dare I, reach out when I'm supposed to be this person or I act like I'm this person, but I'm struggling with this. And I think I, can relate to that those are the times when I feel the most alone.
Mm-hmm. Another habit that can lead you to feeling alone is comparison. And so at different levels, to look at other people's lives and feel like you cannot, not even just the word like comparing, but like to feel like, oh man, they don't understand this or, oh, they're doing this. Like just anytime you're thinking about somebody else's situation versus your situation, you're like putting kind of a separation between you. Feeling like, oh man, they got it all together or they don't have this issue or that issue and things like that can keep you feeling separated. That can keep you feeling alone and keep you from wanting to connect with that person.
And it's so interesting because, most of the time, none of us really have it all together. Mm-hmm. And so those thoughts are just so interesting. Another one that can keep you from connecting with other people and increasing that feeling of being alone is whenever you do communicate, whoever you're talking to is disengaged or distracted or not really paying attention to what you're saying, which can cause you to shut down further.
Yeah, and it might validate you feeling like I am alone because this person's always on their phone when I'm trying to talk to them or, it just kind of seems like they're not all the way here. And you may take that to really validate those feelings that you're already having. But when we're feeling alone, I feel like also it's like, we're telling ourselves a story and telling ourselves a narrative. Mm-hmm. I think when we feel alone, you're telling yourself that people might judge me is one thing, and so that's why I'm kind of staying disconnected, or that's why I don't feel connected, because if I do express this, or if I do show this, or do this, or say this, that I'll be judged by other people.
And then in alignment with that, it's, you're kind of embarrassed and you have that shame. Like you don't want anybody to know that you're feeling like this or you're struggling with these things because of this either image that you have upheld or, you feel like they'll judge you. Like whatever it is that you don't want anybody else to know kind of what's going on with you.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that I don't have down here that made me kind of think of also is that when you're feeling alone, you may be lying to yourself and or not accepting that you are alone or that you feel that way. I think it could be possible to maybe even feel shame about feeling alone or, and so you're like, no, I'm straight. Like I'm cool. I just, I don't feel like doing anything today. But then it's like 20 days later and you've been sitting in the same spot, not connecting with anybody. And it's something to actually acknowledge that, man, maybe I need to reach out to somebody.
Mm-hmm. And another one is you might have a fear or some life experience where, people might not understand whenever you reach out, which can be harmful. You can feel dumb or, judged if somebody doesn't understand what's going on. And so having this thought pattern that, people just automatically, inherently aren't going to understand you could keep you from reaching out or getting you out of this place.
And then a lot of times we tell ourselves that no one has been in this same situation. You don't understand, or you've never been here. And I think actually you kind of alluded to it before. While everybody does have issues, it actually, one thing that people don't want to hear is like, I know exactly how you feel, or I've been there, because actually you kind of haven't. Like you have not had the build up, the experiences, the foundations of this person. You don't know exactly like where that person is, or how they are, or how they're feeling, what they're going through, etc. But at the same time, we can for sure acknowledge that we all have been through those things and been in different spaces that have maybe make you feel similarly. So it is important to understand that like you're not the only person who's felt like that. Again, kind of the purpose of this episode, like you're not the only person who has ever dealt with the thing, maybe not in your particular shoes, but that there are people who, you know, can relate in some way, maybe as a neighbor who is observing, but not necessarily in your shoes.
And it's like that saying, like nothing new under the sun. However many years, you know, the earth's been around, we've been around, people have experienced all these things. And although your situation is unique, sometimes it can be comforting to know that, you know, everybody's kind of felt a little bit of imposter syndrome before. Everybody's felt not worthy before. Everybody's not felt like a bad bitch some days.
And maybe even if it's not everybody, it's like there's been enough people that have. So it's one of those things like where, people feel like this all the time. Beyonce has felt insecure, as we can hear in some of her things that she said and songs, etc. So Beyonce got cheated on. Like, I mean, it ain't just you, sis. So life's gone life, and an acknowledgement that that's part of life can help us to remember that we don't have to isolate ourselves, or we don't have to be alone in those moments, although it may feel like you're the only one who's ever dealt with a thing.
Is it a choice to feel alone?
So I think that's an interesting question. I think to a degree, it is a choice to be alone or to feel alone. Maybe not to feel, because also we'll talk about some other aspects that may affect it, right? Some bigger issues around a person's mental space and other things that may be going on with their body. But I think actually in general, and I thought about this question because I was like, man, if I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, I feel so alone, or I feel like I don't want to talk about this with anybody, or I don't want anybody to know a thing. I'm making that choice also to not tell somebody, or I'm making a choice to shut the world out, because I very much could, but I don't, because I'm letting, whether it's feelings of shame or feelings of they might not understand, or feelings of I'm scared of being judged, I'm letting that outweigh what may happen if I go ahead and express, or if I try to connect with other people. So to that degree, I would say that it can be a choice to feel alone. And even just acknowledging that can actually probably give you power to be like, okay, at least let me acknowledge that I'm making this choice to isolate right now, when I know I could reach out to somebody. How do you feel about it?
I like that. I think I don't know if it's necessarily a choice to feel alone, but I think that we perpetuate what happens after that. Like the initial feeling of, man, I feel so alone. And so like on this island where nobody understands me, but it's kind of up to us to like deconstruct that and be like, that might not be true. And still, make a conscious choice of like whether I do want to reach out to somebody or not.
So maybe the question isn't, is it a choice to feel alone, but maybe is it a choice to isolate yourself?
Yeah,
because that could for sure be more of something where it's easier to say like that's kind of a choice to continue to isolate yourself, or to decide to isolate yourself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And this is not talking about people who have severe mental health issues. Like I think that's a little bit of a difference, and that's a different type of isolation. But like if it's like feeling alone and feeling lonely and be scared of being judged and those things, like I think it very much is a decision to continue to operate like that and to not reach out to somebody, or sometimes it's okay to choose to not reach out to somebody and process those feelings by yourself. So you do think it's okay? You think it's okay to decide not to connect with people when you feel alone? Yeah, I would say make sure that you're okay, in the sense of like there's no thoughts of self-harm, there's no thoughts of like me like a deep spiraling depression, like nothing like that. But sometimes you just have thoughts of feeling alone, and you need to process what that is and where it comes from. And sometimes you can't do that with people, but then sometimes it's important when you notice that you're starting to spiral or go down a rabbit hole or leading somewhere super unhealthy to just call somebody and be like, dog, I don't know what else to say, but I feel like this and I'm alone. And sometimes people just sit there with you. They might not have anything to say, and that's okay too. How
can you figure out when the time is that you should connect? Like, man, maybe I should really say something to somebody or connect with somebody. Like, how can you identify when it's like, man, I'm feeling kind of alone versus, and maybe, sorry, like I'm about to answer the question I asked you, but maybe it kind of has to do with like if your level of feeling hopeful, because like when people ask me like how I'm doing all the time, I'm like, I'm good, but I'm not because I'm trying to lie, but also it's like I always know like, oh, this is not, even if there's some little thing going on, like I'm not ever. I'm rarely in a space where I'm like, but this is not a big obstacle, or this is going to be something that's not going to be a factor later, or this is just not something I don't feel like I need to talk about because I already know it's not that deep. And so maybe it's like, sure, I don't necessarily need to connect about every little thing I'm thinking or feeling when I do feel hopeful. Like I know like, man, I might feel alone right now, but like I know I will be fine. But then there's sometimes maybe when you can feel alone, and that accompanies feelings of like, I don't see this getting better, or I don't see me ever being able to do a thing, say a thing, express myself, whatever it might be. And sometimes it's also not very concrete or specific. Sometimes you can feel like alone, and it's just like, I don't really know what's going on. And maybe sometimes that's when you maybe could reach out to somebody also. If you can't just connect it to like, oh, I didn't finish a thing, and like I don't want to talk about this, I'm feeling down, I don't want to see anybody, I don't want to go out tonight, it can be different than when you're just like, yo, I just feel off. Yeah, and I would say that's probably the difference for me. If y'all listen to the podcast, and even if you're new, hello, I do a lot of self-work. Mm-hmm. So we are very self-aware. We, research on ourselves a lot, ask ourselves a lot of questions. It's in those moments like where I'm not able to figure those couple things out, like, man, where is it stemming from, kind of what these thoughts are. When I notice I'm spiraling, I always call somebody, because that's not healthy. There's no healthy spiral for me. Like when I go down these rabbit holes of like negative self-talk and all, there's nothing positive that happens in my experience. And even if it's just a friend being like, hey, I don't know how to help you, but I'm here if you need me. Even if we just sit on the phone and don't talk. Well, so let's go down to that real quick with what you're saying. How does it, when you're feeling alone, explain how that feels? Like, how does that weigh on you? Okay, so I'm an only child, and for much of my childhood, I was by myself. Like, my mom worked 3 jobs. My stepdad was never around, so I was always by myself. So I enjoy a healthy amount of alone time. If I don't get it, I have an attitude. I like being by myself. I'm great by myself. But it starts to become an issue, and I feel alone whenever I get locked into these negative mental patterns, and I just kind of feel helpless. Like C alluded to that earlier. It's like whenever I don't know where my negative feelings are coming from, or I just feel an immense amount of despair or overwhelm or hopelessness, or things that just maybe feel overwhelming for me, I'm like, maybe I should talk to somebody, whether that's a professional like a therapist, or if I try my own self-care tactics and they don't work, like meditation, taking a walk, working out, doing things, I always call somebody, because I'm like, there's something going on with me right now that's an issue. And it's weird because sometimes you can feel alone like from yourself. So like meditation doesn't really work. Yeah. Or like the talking like doesn't work because like workout I don't even want to hear my fucking self. So. Yeah, I'm working out and I'm like, man, this shit is fucking dumb. Yeah, you're like you're alone, like even from being connected with yourself sometimes. And so if that's how you feel when you're alone, can you feel a difference, or like do you recognize something? I guess what I'm trying to get is, how does that feeling change when you do talk to somebody, or do you feel like you notice a shift or a difference when you talk to a person? I would say, even if it's not a huge mood booster, which sometimes it is, just to be seen and just to be heard, and just to know that even if I feel so much shame for feeling alone and feeling dumb, because I feel like I have all these self-care, taking care of myself methods, and they're not working and I still feel dumb, to know that somebody cares enough to just be there, I'm like, oh wow, I really am loved. Like, no matter what's going on, even when I feel like I'm the worst version of myself, like I feel a shift there. But I would say for the most part in my mood, it just helps me feel grateful
and feel love and feel support. And it helps me start to question those negative cycles I feel kind of stuck in when I'm alone, whenever I do reach out to people and they're receptive.
Mm-hmm. And so how would you say, and maybe this is like, you can only speak for yourself, but how would you say you would prefer that somebody communicate with you? Like, so if you reach out to somebody, and I don't know what you would say if you're like, oh man, I'm just feeling alone. I'm trying to think of what I even say, because I don't know if it's just that exactly. But based off of like what you tell a person, do you have any tips or thoughts about if we're on the other side of this and somebody's feeling some kind of way, like how do you speak to them, or how do you kind of give them space or acknowledge that?
Yeah. And I would say by me being vulnerable and actually reaching out to people, now people do the same thing with me. Like when they're having a vulnerable day or feeling lonely or alone. And so I would say if you're on the other side, to ask questions like, hey, do you want me to talk? You want me to get your mind off of it? Do you want me to ask you questions? Do you want advice? Or do you just want me to be quiet and be here with you? Do you need food? Like, and just kind of asking how I can best support them. And to be clear, these are people that I trust immensely and, who know me. And so there's like a level of understanding, but I would say regardless, even if it's someone I didn't know, I would kind of ask them, because even in their sense of loneliness, they knew enough to reach out to you. And so they kind of know what they need, whether they want to admit it or not. So it's like, hey, do you just want me to be here for you? And they might be like, yeah, I don't really want you to ask me anything. But then later they might start opening up and, then you can ask questions. So I would say the best way is to ask them kind of how you can support them and kind of what they need.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of going back to up to when we're feeling alone, things we tell ourselves, because I'm thinking about with myself, sometimes it's like I might not want to talk about things because I'm telling myself like, okay, what are they going to do about it? Or sometimes it's like, there's nothing you can do. But then I think about it, and like, if I've ever expressed, and it might not be like necessarily just being alone, but like if you ever kind of express like sometimes you're just like off and just like, man, I just want to tell somebody like, oh, I'm not really feeling, where I want to be right now. Sometimes when people are say like, oh, can I do anything? Or do you need anything? It does, even though I might be like, nah, like, I don't know. I don't really need anything, but it does kind of feel good when people ask, like, is there anything I can do to help? But I feel like I never actually have an answer for that.
Yeah. And most people don't. I don't.
Cause it's like, not really, but
I'm here acting
it was
like
nice
I do.
just to say stuff, I guess, sometimes to people. And maybe sometimes it's nice just for you to express how you're feeling.
Because that makes somebody feel supported and seen. A lot of times, especially when we're feeling alone and feeling so disconnected from ourselves and from people, it can be so helpful to know that even if somebody's on a different planet, that they can still see you, that they still know you're there, that they still care, that they're going to try to do their best if you have something for them. And if not, that's okay. And I like what you said, because I've never called anybody and said, man, I feel alone today. But I've called them and said, yo, I just feel off today. Like, I've tried to get everything together and I'm not feeling it. I don't know what to do. I'm just not feeling it today. And they're like, that's okay. That's okay.
Oh, actually, shoot, I feel like I did just tell somebody, it might have been a few days ago or last week. I was like, man, I'm feeling lonely. And then I think they asked like, oh, what can I do? And I was like, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know, it's whatever. And then I don't even remember what happened. But yeah, sometimes it's just being able to express that is helpful. And maybe you start thinking about, dang, what do I need? I don't know. Is there anything actually wrong with feeling alone or being alone? And I guess those are two different things. So let's stick with being. Is there anything wrong with being alone? And by that, I'm talking about like isolating yourself.
Yes. So as much as I love my free space and my autonomy and my freedom to do whatever, whenever, all of those things, isolating yourself is different. So enjoying your alone time and isolating yourself is very different. Whenever you isolate yourself, it's like a self-sabotage way to cut yourself off from people so you can continue spiraling into these negative thought patterns. You allow your emotions to get really heavy on you. And I feel like that happened to a lot of people, especially during the pandemic. Like, it was kind of a forced isolation. And then we all got overwhelmed and we were all trying to figure that shit out. And so suicides jumped up so much during the pandemic. Like, so many people were committing suicide because everybody felt so isolated and disconnected from things. So yes, isolation is a huge problem. It can be a very big problem if you're not like talking to people who love you and can help you, regulate what's going on.
It also does connect to your physical health as well. There were some studies a long time ago, I want to say in the 40s, maybe earlier than that. There was a guy, because I think there was like a what's that movie called? Like a Jungle Book type of thing, where it was like this kid, which is different during your formative years also. But they did studies, and they saw studies where kids who like their mom left them, or like, so there was like orphans, then there was like kids in prison who were able to see their parents, like who did better. And literally like kids, if you put them in like a space and like they never saw anybody, they would pass away. And also like your mortality goes up by 30% according to studies when you have increased social isolation. And so as humans, we literally there's something about needing like people around, needing interaction. And I wonder how that, really kind of connects with everything, where it's like, well, the point of us, like we are social animals, and like we kind of run in packs. And so without that, it's kind of like maybe purpose, reason, other maybe physiological things within your body. It's like, oh, okay, like this isn't really what we're here for. And so it physically is bad for you to overly isolate.
And if you're still skeptical, if you look up white papers on hugging and cuddling and holding hands and just physically touching people, like it increases dopamine and oxytocin and all kinds of things. It's so important to, even physically just be around people, regardless of what y'all are talking about.
Mm-hmm. And then, so when you're feeling alone, what are kind of some things that you can do?
Like I said, the first thing I'm doing when I'm feeling alone is a self-check. I'm journaling. I'm trying to do all these self-care things to kind of regulate myself. I meditate, I pray, I read, I do affirmations, I exercise, whatever feels right to me that day. I take a walk in the sun. And if I'm still feeling not okay, that's usually when I dig a little deeper into journaling or reaching out to my therapist or taking a nap or calling my best friend and expressing like, I'm feeling off today. Can you just like be here for a little bit?
That's when I can tell or know when it's like a shame or judgment or guilt kind of thing. When it's like, I could easily like call a therapist or a random person and be like, yeah, so this is going on. And it's like, it's not hard to talk about it, but it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's like you having expectations of thinking people have certain expectations, or like all of those things. And so sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger or to somebody else. There's crisis text hotlines you can call, things like that. And sometimes, people will have no issue calling and talking to people who aren't in their life. But that also does signal something where it's like, it is very hard to kind of break those, walls of vulnerability. And yet it might be worth something to try to really explore and have evidence behind like who the people are you could talk to, but try to actually like reach out and just have an experience. Sometimes when you have had a bad experience, it's like you never want to talk to anybody again. Like, I'm never going to talk about anything again to anybody. But it also kind of does say something. I remember I had one friend who, they really were like, man, therapy's dumb because if you have friends, you don't need therapy. Which the only thing that connects that to what I'm saying now is the fact that do recognize that you do have people that that you can talk to, or that you could reach out to. Although, of course, where they don't fill in is the master's degree and the understanding of all the tools and concepts.
They're dedicating their life to that.
So for that reason, no, I'd never agree with what he was saying. And yet also it's like, dang, but if I feel like I need a therapist, but I don't talk to anybody else, or I can't say these things to any other person who's in my life, what does that really say about my relationships? Or how real they are, or how fulfilling they are, or how deep they are, I guess. Like intimacy, which is now then something you might talk about therapy. It's like, damn, I have a problem with intimacy. So it is still something to consider. It's like, man, how, why am I not just reaching out to the people who say they care about me? Or if I think they do or know they do, it's like you're still trying to hide.
Man, and that's what I was about to say. So rightfully so, a lot of us have walls that we've built up because we've been hurt. Like, I'm not going to lie. People have misused, mistreated, not cared for, lied on, been drama. Like, we've all been there in whatever circumstance, family, relationships, friendships, whatever. But whenever you're building up walls, you're blocking everybody else out. So it's not just protecting yourself. You're also blocking out people who actually care about you. And so you have it in your head that I got to protect myself. But then at the end of the day, you're just isolating yourself. And it's like, would you rather just break down that wall and heal that wound, or just be in this place all by yourself for the rest of your life?
And we've kind of talked about that before, where it's like, are you going to heal yourself so you can move freely, or do you have to like dodge everything and think so hard about things all the time? You're giving yourself kind of extra work. And we're not going to go too deep into like how to not feel alone. But one kind of concept that I saw that I liked, they said, consider whether the best way to address your issue is to actually just solve the problem, or if you need to solve how you feel about the problem. So like if I'm just at home, like, man, I'm feeling alone, it might be like, oh, let me call up somebody to come hang out. Like, sometimes there's just something you can do to solve it. And you may be in different spaces, which is what you may need to assess. But it's like, all right, if I'm feeling some kind of way, is it something I can just do about this right now? Or I can be like, hey, can I come hang out? Or set a date for another day, or, just something, or call a friend, or just text somebody else and ask them how they're doing. It's like, man, I can just do something right now, and that will make me feel less lonely. Or is it you need to tell yourself, like, you know what, I just kind of want to chill right now. I really am just not in the mood to talk to people, and I'm gonna make this a night and just make some popcorn and watch a movie and just relax. Or I'm gonna be okay being alone, and just use this time to really like maybe treat myself or do something, whatever, right? So you're not treating that you're feeling alone, but you're okay with like acknowledging it, accepting it, changing your relationship with how you're feeling in that moment.
And that has been the biggest paradigm shift for me, is not always trying to fix things as they come up. Like, everything is not a fire. Everything is not a fire that needs to put out. Sometimes you're hungry, angry, lonely, you're tired, and then you're overreacting to everything that's going on in your world. So of course you feel like things are falling apart. Sometimes you're insecure about something, and so you're projecting. And so like giving yourself that pause, that space to take a nap or to do something. And if you wake up and you still feeling alone, maybe it is time to call somebody or to do something else. But not feeling like you or your emotions are always something that has to be fixed in that moment.
Yeah, just making sure you acknowledge it. But also it's important to acknowledge that however you're feeling, it's not something that you have to deal with on your own. So you can reach out. And so maybe thinking about the reasons maybe why you don't, why you won't. And if anything, it's better to, like, even if you want to text an anonymous hotline or do one of those types of things versus hitting up a friend, you do always have that option. And so take it. Even if you think, man, it's maybe not that deep, but I just want to talk to somebody, take that option and try it, and make sure that you do reach out if you're feeling like you're in a place where you might kind of spiral out.
Absolutely. That is always the place. Even if you don't know what to say, you can start by saying that, like, hey, I don't really know what to say, but I'm feeling like this. Ta-da. And just putting that out there. You will be amazed and grateful at how often people can hold space for things that you didn't think that they could, or you might be shameful about. And they'd be like, man, I was feeling like that last month too. And so just knowing that you're not alone, and that there are so many things in society that have been designed to make you feel like that, to make you feel alone, to make you feel less than, to make you feel upset. And so, recognizing that, you're not alone, and that it's okay to feel that way.
Yeah, and again, have some discernment. Like, don't set yourself up and try to text the person who had ghosted you,
please,
a month ago, trying to expect somebody to respond to you or whatever. So you still have to recognize who those people are. And then, of course, like we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but just to make sure that we acknowledge that there's some major issues that may make you feel alone, and that will require more than just being like, oh, let me think about this right now. And there's mental health issues, from bipolarism to depression, etc., where it may feel out of your control. There's particular disabilities that some folks have, where they'd rather be isolated, or like they don't want to be in social settings, or they don't socially mix well with other people. And then even I saw on a list was racism.
Yeah.
Which obviously I guess that connects to being alone, which I never really, I didn't think that deeply about. I wouldn't have just threw that on the list. Mental health issues for sure would have jumped out at me. But dealing with racism at particular levels is something that can make you feel like, yo, like why do people not like me or hate me or have systems against me, and all of those things. Like, of course, that can make you feel very alone as well. So those are some of the things where it's, it's deeper than just, some of the stuff that we're talking about. And in those cases, hopefully you are aware, can become aware of where you are in those spaces. And that's where a therapist or a physical doctor can be of assistance.
Two more that are just top of mind: the pandemic, of course, and then also abuse. If you are in abusive relationships or situations with family or a lover or whoever, a partner, mental, physical, emotional, you could feel very, very alone. And knowing that that's okay, but also the moment you're aware of it is the moment you can start to change things.
And then seeing you pull that up made me remember too, like September is Suicide Prevention Month, and so it's very important that we do. I feel like we say, like, people can reach out, or we say to reach out, and then we don't. Or I speak for myself. I don't be saying nothing. But again, I feel like personally, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'll be straight tomorrow. But it is very serious to pay attention to particular signs, and isolation is one of them. If somebody that like all of us, did you point at me?
No, I'm saying yes. I was just saying yes, ma'am.
Like,
you right, girl. No.
If you notice somebody, especially if their behavior changes, where they're like, yeah, I'm not, they do not come out anymore. They don't respond as much anymore. They might be going through something. If you notice other people doing that, then definitely reach out to them. And if you notice yourself kind of just being like, yo, I'm out of it. Because sometimes you're just like, I just don't want to be around people. And if that's something that you feel or see is lasting for a while, you definitely need to reach out.
Please talk to somebody. And that's actually, I pulled it up for our shout out of the week. It is September is Suicide Prevention Month. And that can sound heavy. Like, man, I'm not trying to commit suicide. But it's okay if you're having those thoughts, even if you have no intention to do it, or if you have an intention, know that there are plenty of resources. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 24 hours. They have English and Spanish. There are some Korean versions out there. So there are languages and people who have either experienced it, who are trained in it, therapists, medical personnel, and the number is 800-273-8255, and we'll link their website. They also have something you can text. So if you're not feeling confident enough to call somebody and actually say it out loud, text them 24/7.
And I would also Google the crisis text hotline, because they have it's all focused on text, because sometimes it's just easier to text people, and you can talk to them just about anything. You can be like, oh, I'm feeling some kind of way because I got a bad grade on a test, or from that to if you really feel like overwhelmed with anything. So look those things up. Make sure you have those resources on deck. And make sure you watch for the signs with yourself and with other people, because it's really not uncommon. Again, the point of this is you're not alone in feeling alone. And we've all been there at some points, and we're probably going to feel it again in the future. But definitely having a good network, being kind of aware, and breaking down some of those walls to like really just saying the first step of just kind of, I'm not really feeling good. Try it, see how that works out for you. And maybe you feel like, oh, it's just a weight off your shoulders just to have that slight moment of connection with somebody, for them to have listened to you or heard you.
Yeah, and Anura talked about that in her episode. If you haven't watched it, it was great. But she does a lot of data where she'll just talk to customers and ask them how they feel about things. And she said that so many people just want to be heard. And they just need that space, even if it's somebody on the other side of a customer service line. So it's okay to reach out if you're feeling alone. And sometimes it's okay to take a couple of moments to yourself.
And you may not know that, oh, I just did want to feel heard. And that could be helpful just off of that.
And then we always end each week with a question of the week. And this week's question of the week is, what did you find that was beautiful or brought you joy today? And I took this from my Neo. Shout out to Tayshelle. Every day she posts, find something beautiful today. So Lexi, what did you find that was beautiful today? If you haven't thought of anything, look to your left. And goodbye.
What did you find that was beautiful
there was something
today?
that brought you joy.
I'm actually trying to think of like anything like that stood out besides like me trying to make it a thing now. Like if I had any moment, I don't know if I did. You go.
I'll let you ponder. I was about to say, unexpectedly, I got flowers today, and that made my whole day. I had already bought myself flowers. And then someone's like, yo, I saw these and they made me think of you. And I was like, wow, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that is nice. I don't know if I have anything today. Nothing popping up for me.
Okay.
What was it again? Where did you find beauty?
Yeah, or something. Yeah, or just find something beautiful today, or something that brought you joy. Is my expansion on it. It can be little.
I feel like at this point I might be trying to reach for something. So I don't know. Besides, like, I don't know. I don't know if I had a moment like that for real today.
Okay. Well, if you didn't, I'm a challenge.
But if I had to be like, oh man, I could think of something that made me feel good or that was happy. I could think something, but nothing really like stood out.
No, but that's gonna be my challenge for you and me and all of us, all you listeners this week. Every day, find something beautiful. Whether it's like, man, my coffee was fire this morning, or the sun was beautiful, or, man, my friend, they did this for themselves and it made me so proud. Whatever it is, just find little things that bring you joy. Breaking that negative thought pattern or whatever's going on is so nice every day, just to find things that you're grateful for and that bring you joy.
Yeah, something you could take a little extra moment on and be like, man, I'm glad about that.
Like, man, that feels good. Just a little moment and keep it moving.
I got some money, but they don't even.
Hey, but that's
I don't even
tiny bit.
I guess, girl.
And that's how you know she got big money now, because they don't even bring her joy.
Dog, you know how they be. First of all,
no, what brought you joy yesterday? Your Gatorade.
Yeah, that's 64 ounces. I'm about 20 ounces in now. But yeah, I was talking to somebody about that too. Cause I'm like, man, you kind of hit certain, certain things you want to hit, like with money or whatever. And it really is like, damn, kind of like, I don't know, it's whatever. But it's weird, but it's nice. I paid rent and I had to pay another big bill today, and it feels nice to pay them. So.
Hey, congratulations. But yes, find some joy this week, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Peace. And enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.